Hello, everybody. My name is Evan Leaphart. I am the founder of Kiddie Kredit and co-founder of the Black Men Talk Tech Conference. Here today to talk to you a little bit about crowdfunding. As a Black founder, we have I would say, more challenging uphill battle than others in some components, but it can be used to your advantage. One thing about our community is we do support each other. So crowdfunding is something that you can use to really tap into your community to say, hey, you believe in me, here's the opportunity to not just show your belief, but be able to actually make some money and build equity in the process. So that's what I'm here today. And Mogul Millennial, I appreciate you having this conversation and providing this platform for me and other individuals like myself to help others. So as I mentioned, I am part of two different organizations, first being Kiddie Kredit, which I'm the founder and CEO of. Kiddie Kredit is a chore tracking app that teaches kids about credit. Premise of the app is the better a kid does their chores, the better their quote unquote credit score. Also, I am co-founder of the Black Men Talk Tech Conference, which we did in partnership with the wonderful women at Black Women Talk Tech. And it's actually October 23rd, 24th, and 25th of this week. So if you're listening to it this week, it is this week. Go to blackmentalktech.com and check it out. If not, we'll have some recordings. So things on the internet live forever, fortunately and unfortunately. Crowdfunding it's essentially like it sounds, right? So it's being able to tap into a collective audience and giving them the opportunity to contribute to your campaign, whatever it is. If it's a product or something that you're giving them the ability to have early access to via a Kickstarter campaign, Indiegogo, something like that. But then there's different types, right? So that's where you're getting a tangible good for your direct investment and just getting it early and maybe at a discount. The same type of thing applies with equity crowdfunding. There's a bunch of different platforms out there now. So you have things like Republic, Start Engine. We did ours on a platform called Micro Ventures. You have Fund Black Founders, Net Capital, Seed Invest. I'm missing some others. I apologize. But what you can do with those platforms is you're actually investing into these companies, right? So if they end up making it big, you get the same type of financial windfall as that individual that said, hey, I got $25,000. Maybe this car ride sharing platform called Uber will work out. And then all of a sudden they're in a totally different tax bracket. So those opportunities were typically reserved for what's called an accredited investor. But thanks to the Jobs Act, that's actually been made available to the common person that says, hey, look, I believe in what you're doing here, but I only got $150. So here you go. So yeah, in a nutshell, what it is it's basically an alternative method to find funding for your business to be able to grow and scale. If you have more of a product, right? Like if I'm building out something and I have the prototype and I want to be able to get the funds in to be able to maybe produce it or just to be able to market it, I might go to a more traditional crowdfunding platform like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo or something of that nature. But if we're looking to scale out a tech platform, like in our case, we were with Kiddie Kredit, like we went to an equity crowdfunding site, right? So the way that we did it is we're raising on a convertible note. The terms will vary based on the companies, if there's a discount, what the valuation cap is. And it's a pretty regulated process, so we had to go through SEC approval. We had to file our Form C, which the platform may help you with, or you have to do it on your own. So there's expenses that you'll have to pay up front and things like that. But yeah, there's typically the standard crowdfunding where you're essentially getting a product, or you can go equity crowdfunding where you're investing for equity in a business. I learned a lot. I mean, it's you end up having to answer a lot of questions to auntie and your cousin and your friend that you haven't talked to in like 10 years, right? Because they're like, hey, if I give you this $100, like, can I get this back in 3 months? And you'll be like, no, that's not how this works. Or, so you end up answering a lot of questions, right? So it's kind of one thing I do like about it is it's, as a founder, right? We all have billion, trillion-dollar visions for our companies. And you really get used to what it's like to answering questions when your company's regulated by the SEC. Like, I can't say too many forward-looking statements. I have to make sure that what I'm saying for the most part is tried and true. And if I'm talking about things that we're working on, I have to be able to always disclose the level of risk that goes into these early stage investments. So that was new, for me too, just making sure that I was always just really like disclosing the proper things to everybody. And the process itself, it takes a lot of, it takes a lot of time, the due diligence that led up to it, that really prepared me for everything. So I feel going forward, as I look to raise around, all of the stuff that I had to do to prepare myself for this crowdfunding campaign, I know I'm going to have to deal with in the future. What it is it's a very risky investment, right? Like, you need to be, if you're the one that's putting forth the crowdfunding campaign, you want to be very forthcoming to say, look, this is an early stage investment. The reason why you're getting more equity is because you're betting on it earlier, right? And there's a chance you may not get this back. This business might not make it. It might flop. But if it does absolutely the opposite, your financial windfall is that much greater. The example I give a lot of people is, you look at a company when it IPOs, and we think that's like, oh, we're getting it early. It just launched on the stock market. Like, that company's more than likely been around for years. So the people that are really happy about the IPO are the people that were in the same very stage that their early stage investor is. And now they get to see it go to the stock market. Now they can just be like, oh, I don't care what it does. I could stay in. There might be a lockup period, which means you can't, cash out your shares for a while, or you can. And then all of a sudden you're receiving an immediate reward. So I think the thing to understand is that early stage investing is high risk, high reward, like, bottom line. And as a founder, it's your responsibility to be honest about it. You can be enthusiastic about your business, to be like, look, I'm trying to build my business to be the best thing the world has ever seen, but also understand that with your money, I appreciate your belief in me, but understand that this is an investment and it comes with its risks. And then just be very transparent about what the terms of the investment are. If you're raising on a convertible note, they need to understand that, you don't even begin to have an opportunity to experience a return on your investment until there's some sort of financing event that occurs, be it raising a new round or an exit or an IPO, whatever the case may be. I think you want to kind of gauge the pre-interest in what you're doing, right? And just have a strategy. Don't just go through your address book and be like, oh, let me hit up this guy, and let him know about the crowdfund. Like, really, like, have what we did as a team is we had a spreadsheet and we kind of had our contact list and figure out like who would be our like tier 1 people to reach out to, tier 3, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, et cetera, et cetera. And then hit it. And then like that will give you a strong base to start from. I tried to reach out to all the people I know in the space that have had successful crowdfunding campaigns to figure out what worked for them and what didn't. One thing I will say too is once you get out of reaching out to your network to let people know that's what you're doing and say, hi, hey, either help us promote this, or if this is something for you, here's all the information that you need to invest. You're going to have to market. So you're going to have to spend money on a traditional Facebook ad campaign, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever works for you, to get the word out there. And you're going to want to make sure that the language that you're using is approved by the particular crowdfunding medium that you're using. So I can't sit here and say, hey, invest $100 in the next unicorn. Like I can't say that. Like that type of stuff is, you can face potential liability issues there. So just really being very transparent in disclosures and marketing what you do. Don't be afraid to market that you have an amazing product, but just don't say anything that could be interpreted as financially misleading. I mean, you want to draw in, right? So if you don't have a product that's like for Kiddie Kredit example, it's like, oh, teaching kids credit. It's like, oh, it's that people get excited about that, right? Like I know there's kind of that cheat code with my product, right? But there could be something that's some semiconductor company that's making millions, like there's different lead-ins that they would have to draw your attention, right? So whatever's going to draw their attention kind of right away, keep them there, or like just like your storytelling is going to be everything. And I mean, there's many different ways you can do that. You can really explain the problem and then lead to the solution. You can highlight what your differentiating moment is, be it regarding your traction team or your revenue, but just something to keep them engaged. And I would say don't make it too long. I mean, we all have short attention spans. We've all gotten some friends sent us a YouTube link that's like 30 minutes. You're like, bro, I'm not watching this. But if it's like a minute or 2 minutes and it's really like, it makes sense to the intended audience. It's everything. So I would say keep it short and make it for your intended audience, like who your target customer is or who your target investor you perceive to be. So we had 90 days to run with our campaign. We had the option to extend it, but we really kind of hit the purpose of what we were trying to do this for, which was really to just kind of give ourselves like a little bit of cushion with our burn to then be able to really focus on our build out and get this 2.0 launch right. But I mean, I think we did have the option to have it run longer. So I don't want to speak for all platforms because I think they have different duration times. So I think you just as an organization need to figure out what's the number you want to hit? Like like you'd say, oh, it'd be cool if we raised the full 1.07 million that you can raise in this particular type of offering, like just your regular Reg CF. But like, are you prepared for that $1 million? Like that's a lot of money now. People are going to be expecting to get back. And like, do you have a real plan for it? So I would say at different benchmarks, have a plan. So, I mean, we had a plan for what to do if we just raised 25, 50, 75, which we did. And we had a plan for 100. And we had a plan for if we raised 250. 250 was the max that we were trying to raise, just because of where we had set the valuation cap and everything. So yeah, just have a plan for the different types of thresholds. But once you figure out that number, then you can say, look, we're going to give it XYZ amount of days to get there because we need this money by December in order to be prepared for our potential pilot in March, right? So it's going to be very specific to the company's needs. And if it is a platform that gives you certain thresholds, 90, 120, 180 days, then plan accordingly to that too. It's tough. I mean, that's times where like press can help, but also the marketing, right? Like your marketing spend, you should be looking into different, there's a lot of marketing specialists now that focus on crowdfunding campaigns. And again, like once you've kind of tapped into your network and you don't want to over saturate your network, like, and just make them feel guilty for not investing. Like you have no idea what people are going through. So if you kind of feel like you've exhausted your network and it's time to tap out into another realm, like you really need to kind of, like tap into digital marketing budget. And if you don't have that much of that, you just kind of get creative and, get out there, use the resources that you have. So it's going to, if you're a little more scrappy, then you're going to have to be out there and, in people's DMs on, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, trying to get that story to say, hey, here we are, this is what we're doing, and build interest from a marketing side. But if you do have eyes on it and people are they don't know yet if they want to make that financial commitment, do what actually matters more than any of this. like build the business, like do something in the right direction of your business that you can then be like, you don't want to give me that $100? Well, look, you only got 5 days now, and look what we just did in these past couple days. So then it's like, oh, okay, like, so this isn't, we don't just need the money. I think too, what's happening, just taking this on a larger scale, is a lot of times the highlight is on how much companies are raising versus like what the companies are actually doing. So like, don't get lost in that world too, and think that like, just because you raised the maximum, like that was a success. Like, if you raise $25,000 and then like you turn that into a multi-million-dollar business, like you're the success story. But if you raised 1.07 and you got to turn right around and raise another 1.07 and you're still pre-revenue, like you got $1 million of like people financially committed to your success and they haven't seen it. So like, imagine that type of pressure. So don't compare what you've raised to others. Raise it, like compare it to like, we were expecting $25,000 because this would help us, and we were able to raise 50. So with that 50, now we can do this, and this. Just focus on building the business and not the numbers, because if you have no plan for it, and you're like, you should really only be trying to raise the money because you need the money. That's like really the bottom line. I think a lot of people are now just trying to raise just to have money and then figure it out. So focus on what you need and just stick to that. Yeah, I think we can all, like as founders, like really relate to like the journey, right? And if I say, look, we tried it, we fell a little short, but we lived to fight another day, right? Like if you like, that's, I don't want to use this election, but like a previous election, like when a president didn't win, they say, you know, we lived to fight like another, you still kind of carry on, right? And just having that same type of message to say like, look, the mission of this business doesn't die because we didn't hit this funding goal. We just find another way to do it, right? And if you're on a platform where you have to make pass a certain minimum, and so because you didn't, you don't get it, like it's okay. That's still a story, right? And it just adds to your story. So I don't want to just give a bunch of like rah advice, but seriously, like you can live with that and say like, this is what we did, and then really reflect on that to say, okay, this is maybe why people didn't invest the amount that we thought. If we work on X, Y, and Z, we'll get to a different threshold. I mean, I think about that too. I'm like, man, we raised 75. Could we have raised the full 250 if I would have done this differently? Like, sure. You know, like, I mean, I think there's things that we've done that have been massive successes so far to us, small wins. And I think there's things we've done that have been blunders, you know, but it's fine. You just keep going forward. So like, don't let the fact that you put your business in front of a bunch of people to see, and not everybody had the belief in your product or you the way that you thought, like stop you. Because if it does, then you actually weren't fit for this in the first place. So just keep going.